this is going to be a very strange section because a lot of it is visual, but because we're for the most part, an audio podcast, I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, but we will get to it one way or another. I do have a PowerPoint presentation because yay for PowerPoint. Here it is. And
why did you make a PowerPoint presentation and not a
because
keynote?
it was the easiest way to show them on the screen as we go through this here. Otherwise, trying to show individual images is really, really hard in StreamYard. But most streaming services will allow you to import a PowerPoint presentation so that you can slide through all of the various things.
Okay. I didn't. Okay. I was just being nasty to you. You didn't have to.
No, that's fine. So here we are. First slide. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so now for anybody listening, Guy is showing me a PowerPoint presentation. It's really interesting to start off with. So very good. I'll let you, I won't interrupt anymore. Well, I will, but
yes, you will.
Yeah. Yes, I will.
That's
true.
So to give you kind of an idea of what happened, Carl and I got together this morning because I had some questions about creating images in Microsoft's Copilot. And for whatever reason, I was thinking that's what Carl uses, but he uses Chat GPT, which is the paid version of Chat GPT. Why it's named that twice, no idea. But that's kind of where that came from. So we're going to kind of go over these AI shenanigans. And, sometimes a podcast comes from something that has nothing to do with the original idea. And the original idea that we were going to go over this week was to talk about the silly games being played between Apple and Epic.
Yeah. Are you yawning?
Sorry. Yeah. It was so boring. It would have been such a boring topic. But I wanted to create the image for it first. And so I figured I haven't really done much with it yet. So let's go into.
So can I just say how ironic that you found this much more interesting than the actual subject?
I did. But that's where it started. So I wanted to create the image first. And what I was having trouble with, I didn't have any trouble making kind of cool images. And you'll see those if you watch it on YouTube. What those images look like.
Can I suggest that you actually try and put a link to the PowerPoint in the show notes somehow?
Can I do that?
Well,
I'm going to put a link into this entire section separately. From the video that I normally make.
Cool. Anyway, I will shut up now.
What you said. But I wanted to create the image first, and I was having trouble exporting it. And so I contacted Carl Madden from the Mac and Forth show, who does this every single week. And eventually the topic changed from talking about Apple and Epic to talking about AI-generated images. So the original concept that I had was there's an angry programmer, and I used Microsoft's Copilot to create the following image. And go ahead and describe what that looks like, Gaz.
So basically, in front of me, I'm seeing a Steve Jobs type image.
Yeah,
it looks a little bit like Steve Jobs, and he's got headphones on with glasses. He's in front of his computer, and he's got his arms raised, and he's obviously going, ah!
He's a very angry puppy.
Yes.
So that was the first image that I came up with, and it's okay. It's not bad. And it's exactly what I asked for, but I wanted something a little bit different. So I added into the description for Microsoft Copilot that I wanted the programmer to be yelling and jumping up. And this is what Microsoft Copilot gave me.
So what you got this time was a cartoon reflection of a guy in a white shirt and a tie. So it's obviously now not Steve Jobs. It's some Microsoft nerd. And it's a cartoon image of him jumping up. There's a wasp or a bee in the background
For
watching on
some
for
reason.
some reason, no idea why. And
Me
he's
either.
he's just jumping up in the air. You can see both his feet, and he's doing a star jump without much of a star shape. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that, but not quite right, I don't think, is it?
No, no. And in Microsoft's Copilot, there are these filters that you can add because I mean, basically, you put in what it is that you want. It creates 4 different images, squared images, and you select from one of those the ones that you want to keep, and then you can apply these filters to it. So I looked at the filters that were there, and there was one called steampunk, and I hit that, and this is what it came up with.
So, so this is this is a very similar image, although now the guy is not being angry at the computer. He's jumping over the desk. You can see the computer on the desk. He's got steampunk glasses on, those rounded,
Yeah.
like everybody knows what I mean by steampunk, I hope. It's a bit grungy as well. The bee has turned into definitely a bit of a nasty bee, and it's now
And
facing
he's
him.
robotic.
And it's a robotic. Yeah, it's very robotic. And the guy is being angry with what the bee or the wasp is. And now there's like a, when you got watches on a chain, it looks like
Yeah.
that's flying off the table as well. So yeah,
It was.
you should go and have a look at some of these images because they are worth looking at.
They are quite funny, and I like this, but I was having trouble because there's a button in Copilot that says download, so I was like, okay, I'm going to download it. Download it, had no idea where it put it. So the only workaround that I could find, and there was nothing on Microsoft's help, and Googling didn't help either, was to export it as a PDF and then convert it to a JPEG, which is very convoluted. So at this point, I went to the one person that I knew who would be willing to spend time with me on this ridiculous subject, and that was Carl Madden from the Mac and Forth podcast. Started chatting him up, and I asked him to create computer programmers, plural, yelling, one with an Apple logo and the other with an Epic logo. And of course, he instead of using Microsoft Copilot, he's using Chat GPT. And this is the image that came up.
Now, this image is of two guys, I would say probably in their mid-50s.
At least.
Still quite fit guys. One with an Apple t-shirt, one with an Epic t-shirt, blue Epic t-shirt, in a computer room. One of them is working on what is obviously a souped up. Well, actually, it looks like a Mac still. Well, it's probably running Windows because that's the best way to run Windows, as we all know. And the other
Yeah.
one's obviously got a Mac, and they're basically having a bit of an argument with each other. Quite a heated argument, I've got to say. So, but quite apt for this subject.
Yeah. And there's a guy in the background, and this is important. There's a guy in the background that's just sitting at a desk with his back turned to these two guys.
Yes, that's right.
And the reason why this is important is that when I noticed the guy at the computer, I asked Carl from the Mac and Forth show if Chat GPT could use an existing image and just make a small change. And he wasn't sure, but he did ask what the change would be. And I was like, okay, I want you to take the background guy and have him with his back still kind of turned to these two shooting the bird. And if you don't know what that means, look it up, because he doesn't seem to really care about Apple and Epic's big fight. And when he put that in, this is the image that we got back.
Now this is a very interesting image because
It really is.
Because there are several things going on here. I won't go into the final bit about the shooting the bird because I'll let you describe that in a minute. But what struck me more than anything else is these two guys now the t-shirt color has changed slightly on the Epic image. The Epic logo has changed somewhat. The Apple logo is still exactly the same. The two guys are still having a go at each other. However, they have both strangely morphed into Craig Federighi. It's and what's even more strange, and I don't think Guy had spotted that bit, because but what's even more strange is Steve Wozniak's in the background as well.
It kind of is.
He certainly looks like him, and it definitely looks like Craig Federica's having a go at his brother. Anyway, and there is the guy that was at the computer is now turned round, and his index finger is pointing to the sky. Now there are two other images in this, but I'll let Guy go on to the next bit.
Yeah, and don't forget there's birds for some reason.
Yes, birds. There are two birds. Yeah, there are two birds, and that's why I said there are a couple more images, but I didn't want to say too much because I didn't know how much you wanted to say.
Oh, and we can't figure out what's on the one guy's t-shirt.
No, there's the guy in the background. He's got, I can't quite read what it says. It looks like Dopey. I don't know.
That's very well what it could be. So
they're very good images, though. These are cartoon type images, but they are very clear, very good images. They're great images. But I just can't get over the fact that Steve Wozniak and Craig Federighi's in there.
They are both in there for some reason. When this came up and I saw the birds, I started cracking up because it was like, oh my God, there's birds. There's birds in my image. I don't know why. And basically it was just because we had birds in the description. So there were birds. But it took me a couple of times looking at this image before I finally caught one more thing that just... I'm still laughing about it right now. And the next slide will show you what it is.
So in the right-hand corner, remember Guy said there's two birds, but on the right-hand side, there is a guy with a sniper rifle who is obviously going to shoot the bird. So this is where I think I go back to my original point about ML and AI. So it's now caught the act of shooting the bird. Well, it's not caught in the act of shooting the bird. And I've got to say, no animals were hurt in the making of this image.
No, they were not. But as soon as I saw that, I literally gasped. I almost fell out of the chair. I started laughing so hard. And it took me a minute to remember that I had told Carl that the guy in the background had to be shooting a bird. And he decided to give me a guy with a sniper rifle who's getting ready to shoot one or both of the birds.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, Guy, it could be that the bird on the left is the one that's going to be shot, but the bird on the right might be coming in to attack the guy who's going to shoot the bird on the left. I don't know.
He's going to save his buddy.
Yeah. And Steve Wozniak and Craig Federighi are completely oblivious to all of this going on behind them.
No idea what's going on. Oh my God. Okay, so ChatGPT gave us a completely unexpected result, and it was still in line with what it was we had asked for, just not quite what we expected. So at this point, oh, hold on a second. Oh my God.
Guy's actually crying.
Completely knackered. I was surprised that my eye didn't come out when I was laughing so hard at that. So I went back into Microsoft's Copilot and I asked for the same thing. And it's a good image. It's not as funny as the two previous ones, but this is what Microsoft Copilot gave me.
It's come up with two much younger, this very cartoon imagery, much younger guys, but they're both now screaming at each other in different parts of the universe, as it were, because obviously there's one's on a black background and one's on a lighter background, but they're it looks like they've got lots of armory behind them.
They do.
they've both got kind of bandanas on. One, the Apple one is blue, and the Epic Games one is red. And the Epic Games logo is changed again, but it's because it's a different AI putting it in. But that goes to show that Epic Games logo is then something it can't pick up, I would say, because the Apple logo is definitely there. And they're just shouting at each other. One's got a goatee and a moustache, and the other one's just got a bit of it looks like he might have a moustache, but stubble. Yeah, probably stubble. But you're right, not quite as good. Not quite as good.
Not nearly as funny.
No.
So I took this image and I again applied the steampunk filter because it's just such a good filter. And this is what it came up with.
Yeah, this one, we're not seeing the full image on your presentation because the full squared image, because you've cropped it slightly, but these again, it's just created quite a lot of steampunk. And funnily enough, the British company, telephonic company EE have appeared into this one because there's a little EE symbol on one of the goggles. And interestingly enough, the Epic Games guy, who's one of his eyes, I'm not sure if this is a reflection of you, Guy, or not, because one of his eyes has got the Epic logo game on it. So whether he can't see out of that eye, I don't know. But he's got a spare pair of goggles on top. Now, the steampunk guy on the Apple side, his eyes are bright bursting orange. And he's got a single goggle on the front, which could
monocle,
be, monocle. Well,
or a flashlight or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Anyway, and again, there's lots of in the full image. There's lots of weaponry, more like a bit of a World War I imagery.
Kind of, yeah. All right, now if I had stayed with the original, extremely boring idea of talking about Apple and Epic Games, I did one more image, and this one would have been the one that I would have chosen, not because I liked it the most, but because it fit the idea of podcast artwork much better than all of the other ones.
So this image is, again, two people screaming and obviously going to be in a fight. The one on the left is a guy, and he's got the Apple logo, and Epic is just written on the T-shirt of the female.
Another different logo.
And of the one I assume is a female, and she has headphones on, and the guy has a beanie on, I'd say. And that's quite sublime, really. It's quite flat, isn't it, as an image? But it does the job. It definitely does the job.
Yeah. And it would have allowed me to put, MyMac Podcast across the top. And,
yes, true.
Some more information on the bottom.
Yeah.
Because the problem with a lot of the other images is colors, patterns, and shapes made it too busy to put text over top of it. But that was basically what I went through this morning. And I gotta say, I really, really enjoyed it, because anytime that I can laugh that hard over something that I'm doing during the day, that just makes the day so much better. It really does.
So you can all go home and there's nothing to worry about. Get out of here now. Go on home and go home.